My name is Ken Bassam. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer for a company called BillingQ Zebraworks. Today we're going to work on or talk about our Invoices-to-Cash platform that's called BillingQ. And let me just pop this on. Let's see if we can do that. So we should all be seeing that screen right now. And I think that's the case. So let's dive in. And Norby, if you would just message me if there's anything that isn't working correctly, that would be great. And I'm just going to do this. So we should be seeing the invoices to cash. And what I wanted to start with is just to go over a little bit about the reasons that we're doing what we do. My background is legal tech for the last 26, 27 years, primarily in the financial management space. And this is a slice of that, or a piece that we're working on and have released that's in production today. So why we set out to do this invoices to cash piece is because there's been a lot of attention that have given to, let's say, time tracking, pre-bills and edits, and even bill processing. So I was with the lead for about 18 years, and a company called ProLaw was a part of that. And so all of those systems, all the major systems out there, have spent a lot of time and attention to tracking time, right? From their own time entries to Carpe Diem to DTE, all of those taking us way back. And then the pre-bills and edits, a lot of attention and time have been given to that as well. So paperless pre-bills, and initially just editing pre-bills into PDF and things of this nature. And then really where the financial management systems spend a ton of time is in the actual bill processing, because that's a complicated process. Lots of rules that are associated with it, as well as lots of things that they just have to take care of. And so much so that a lot of their time and attention is often in this bill processing piece, which is why you have companies like iTimekeep and, as mentioned earlier, Carpe Diem and DTE and Intap Time and things like this that really specialize in a portion of the cash flow relay. So tracking time, right? Pre-bills, there's a lot of third parties that provide those as well. Bill processing is typically done by the financial management system. And then kind of the last piece of the cash flow relay is this invoices to cash. And that's really what we'll focus on during our time today. And I do promise to get to a demo at some point as well. But so why did we set out to put focus in this particular area? And really what drove us to this is primarily invoices to cash as a manual process. And so there's different stages of that, but in addition to being a manual process, what we've seen, and this is from 2023, but the collection cycles actually lengthened. And what a time to be talking about collections when we're in December at a year end, if you're on a calendar year there. So you can come in and see that in 2023, it increased by about 5%. And then ARs increased over 9%, according to that particular survey. And in fact, a lot of firms have planned on, 76% of firms have planned on increasing billing and collection staff from 2017 to 2022. And from our findings, that's continued to grow now that we're at the end of 2024. And most people are planning on continuing to add time and attention to that. And that's how it's been accomplished for many years, is that we're throwing more bodies at the problem. So both from collections as well as payments and things of that nature. And so that's really what we're out here to help with. So shockingly, there's a lot of firms that we talk to that are in this kind of level one. So as far as collections goes, we have one or two people that pay attention to that. Sometimes we move that out to the lawyers themselves to do. There's not a ton of visibility into the process, and everybody's kind of doing their own thing. From like a level two standpoint, we've got it documented, but it's not anything that the firm's prescribing as kind of a must-have or must-do. Some people are doing the same things, but a lot of it's still varied, and so it's at least defined, but there's still room to grow. The next stage that we see in kind of the maturity model is that one of reportability. So we are pretty much fully adopted into the process. We do believe in automation, meaning that we don't have to put a stopgap in the automation to where somebody's approving it each time or something of that nature. And we start to get some levels of understanding where we're at from the collection side, as well as the payment side is also. Then we get to managed. And so we don't run into too many firms that are at this stage, but really what this is helping us being able to do is we don't only have it defined and we can report on it, but the ability to be able to report on it allows us continuous improvement and allows us to shift a lot of those tasks. So if we're sending out an AR notice, so often you'll have the need to start an email, type in the body of the email, then somehow save the invoices with balances out onto maybe the desktop for some systems. Some systems allow you to attach it directly from there, but it's still a very manual process. Was discussing with a firm the other day, and they said it's about 5 to 6 minutes per reminder statement that they're sending out, just to put the backup with it, right? So the hard costs that we're advancing, as well as all the outstanding invoices with balances, and so those are what we would call maybe low value tasks, and we can use those folks to do different things. And then kind of the final one, and we'll take a look at how we're tackling this, is predictable. So not only do we have a defined process, we've got full adoption, and we're allowing automation in order to assist and aid us as well, but now we can start to predict things on the maturity model, such as what is the future collections going to look like? What is our payment realization? Everything across the board, and so that's kind of how we think about it. So when we talk about invoices to cash, that kind of last piece that we're not spending tons of time on, right? Or that there's not been a lot of time and attention to, that's what we're accomplishing here. So depending on what your processes within your firm are, you can automate the bill delivery, and we'll certainly talk about what that looks like. Automation of AR notices, and in fact, a lot of systems that are out there that are helping you with collections aren't automating completely the sending of AR notices, and certainly not at the level of granularity that's required in order to get full lawyer adoption. Additionally, within that, just the follow-up. So it's great that we got the notices out there, but how often do we need to be reminding these folks, and can we remind everybody the same way? Or there may be certain clients or certain matters that have different preferences, or certain attorneys or lawyers that have different preferences. So we need to be able to accommodate for that as well. And so that's really the central tracking that allows you to not only maybe disseminate or disperse some of these activities outside of just a collections individual, but if you have visibility into the process, it will allow you to track that a little bit better. And then finally, making the ability to make payments a lot easier than many firms do today. And we accomplish that by providing a client portal. What a client portal is a place that somebody can go and we remember who they are. So it's not like a first time experience each time that they're coming in, right? So we remember who they are. We know what their matters are. We know the bills that they have balances on. We know their preferred method of payment. And although we don't store that, the system will store that for them. And so within that, they can come through and be able to see and make payments very, very easily. And so we'll take a look at that as well. And then maybe lastly, have the ability to have some history there. So I'm going to make this payment, but I want to see a history of some of the payments that I've made. And as you might imagine, that is also an optional service also. So I think that gets us to my favorite part, which is kind of the demo. So we're going to switch gears for just a second. Again, if anybody's on there and we're not seeing this screen, let me know. But I'm having pretty good confidence because I've not received too many messages that anything's off the rails there. So this is BillingQ. And so what BillingQ is it's an invoices to cash, like we've been talking about, platform. And it's born in the cloud, right? So it's completely cloud-based, hosted in Azure. Um, Sometimes I get the question, and so I'll answer it before we do. But every firm has their own database within this instance. So while we take advantage of a multi-tier architecture, which is one of the benefits of SaaS and cloud, we segment or separate all of each firm's database. So we're not commingling data, just trying to use security in order to separate that out. But every firm has their own database, in fact, their own master keys to that data and so forth, depending on how you want to have that. And in certain instances, can even spin it up in your own instance of Azure, if that makes sense. All right, so that's the technical side. What we're looking at here is a syncing or a copy of your financial management system that's brought over into BillingQ. So this process is one that takes a number of hours, and by a number, I mean less than 5, sometimes as quickly as 2. So it's not a laborious process of months of data conversion or anything of that nature. It's truly just a sync using what we call the Zebraworks bridge in order to grab the data from your billing system that's appropriate to house in BillingQ, and then bring that into this view. Now we automatically inherit all of the security that your billing system is providing today, and then we apply additional layers above that for when it makes sense for who can see what and who can do what, who can change what, and things of that nature. So right now we organize the data into 3 different sections. So we've got matters, we've got billing contacts, as well as a section called activities. And that's really that central tracking and full visibility into the invoices to cash process. So within this, I'm just looking at my matters. As you might imagine, all of these searches they're both unlimited as well as fully customizable. They can be limit the view to individuals or to the firm wide for when it makes sense. But as I'm logged in as, I believe, Kelly Ward over here, when I click on my matters, it's only going to show me, of course, my matters. I can choose the columns that I want to see and how I want to view that. But I can come through and say, you know what, let's just go focus on anything that's over 90. And so I can go through and look at the matters. And if I wanted to see more detail, I can drill down, which we'll do in just a second. But the very first piece of that invoices to cash space that we were talking about was bill delivery. A lot of financial management systems do a great job of that. So when we're talking about bill delivery today, in our context, we're talking about PDF bills or bills that we're emailing that aren't electronic bills, meaning we're not uploading them to a third-party site, but these are the bills that we're emailing out of the firm, and usually in PDF format, of course, and sending those out. So what we have the ability to do is by client, by matter, by attorney, I think those are the levels. You can come through and set preferences for how you want those bills delivered, and you can do it 2 ways. You can do it automatically, meaning that once you get your pre-bill edits back from the lawyers, you make those changes and you have full authority to just send those bills out. If that's the case, beautiful. You just hit one button and actually in your billing system, we'll go grab those and automatically deliver those out. We do deliver them via an individual, meaning that you choose who is sending it out. So if the attorneys prefer to send their bills out, they can come directly from that. If you want it to come from, accounts payable or whatever address you would like, you can certainly do that. But we use Exchange to send those out. We're not using a general group mailbox or an SMTP server. We're actually just using the Exchange account of whoever you say these bills are coming from. And that's important from a deliverability standpoint, as well as sometimes from a just an acceptability standpoint, because if it's coming from somebody I know, I'm more inclined to open it, pay it, and things of that nature. Now, in some instances, and I'm just going to act like there was a question, right? There's a time where it says, hey, you know what? We get the edits from the attorneys and we make those changes, but then they want to look at the final prior to it going out. And so that's something we've built into the system as well. So if we're looking over here to the left and we come down to activities, you'll see something called email queue. Apparently, we've always got to get a queue in there somewhere. So if I go to the email queue, what it's going to do is it's going to show me a listing of all invoices that are getting ready to be sent out for Kelly Ward, because that's who I'm logged in as. So I could come through and say, hey, you know what? I want to spot check a couple of these. It shows me who the billing contact is. It allows me to drill down into detail if I'd like to do that. Shows me who the matter is, right? When it was created, who it's coming from, who it's going to. A subject line, which you can certainly get much more creative than Statement 361. It's customizable. In fact, all of our email templates are unlimited and customizable, not by us, but by the firm. I mean, we can do it as well, but the goal is to train the firm on how to do that so that you can have kind of the full experience that you need. Actual link to the bill. So if they want to go look at the final bill, they can do that. And then you can see which template's been picked for either this attorney, client, or matter, so that it's saying exactly how they want to speak to their clients. So what this is really doing is kind of pausing the automation, and billing staff can use it as well. If they want kind of a final check prior to releasing, they certainly can. And I can come through and click, let's send all of these. This one looks good. So I trust the system after a few months to just go ahead and send those out. Or I can do one at a time, send or deny. If I deny it, we'll get a notification of that. So again, the visibility into the process to know, hey, I sent them the final bill. They never sent it out. Why? So you can get a notification that you can contact them, see what else needs to happen. But we also want to have approvals. So in the case that somebody says, I never approved that, again, audit trail visibility into the process as a whole, so that you can say, well, somebody did. And the somebody is really important here, because not only am I seeing the bills that are going out on my behalf, but if I have other folks that I work with, then I can set them up as my delegates, and they could come in and review and approve these as well. So if I've worked with somebody for the last 20 years, they know exactly how I like to communicate to my clients, what I want my bills to look like, what are the gotchas that I'm looking for, then they can be my delegate. They'll get the same notification using this notification system over here that says, anytime there are bills ready to be sent, send them a notification that says, hey, go review. They can come through and approve on my behalf. We know who they are because they're logged in, and we'll show that activity as well. So this email queue is great for pausing the sending of bills or queuing up everything that's going to go out. Where we originally wrote it for was queuing up the AR notices, because initial bills aren't necessarily always as sensitive of a topic to send out, because we're doing the work, we're sending them the bill. Sometimes lawyers get a little bit more particular about how we're collecting that money. And so the granularity that exists in bills and pausing those going out and changing the email templates and the timing and all of that applies to bills, but it also applies to AR notices, so that I can set the appropriate workflow based on this particular practice area or based on this type of work that we're doing. And that's really important, because one of the roadblocks to automation is flexibility. So if I come in and I say, hey, we all have to speak to our clients the exact same way, we're always going to follow up on AR if it's over $10 and it's 60 days old. And so some people say, hey, that's great, but not for me. And so then you lose out on that portion of the firm that could be or benefit from automation. So if you can deliver the flexibility around the process as a whole that says, hey, you know what, you can speak to your clients the way that you're comfortable with. You can choose to follow up on that AR, assuming that it's firm approved when it makes sense for you. You can have your own balance thresholds. You can do all of those types of things. When you give them or accommodate those specific preferences, you'll see a lot more openness to applying automation to the process, which again is removing those kind of low-level tasks and letting folks do what they're probably both enjoy doing and are better at, and a better use of their time, which is those higher level activities. So email queue can be used for both bills as well as AR notices. But let's go look at the system just in a little bit more detail, and we'll do so by clicking on My Matters. So I can certainly see certain levels of information, current AR, when they last paid, and so on. But I might want to dig into that a little bit deeper. And we're not quite going to go there yet. But so I can look at the matter in depth and see, who within the firm's working on the matter, right? When it was open, the type of case that it is. I can see contacts that are associated with this matter if your financial management system allows for that functionality. And then as I'm looking at this, if I, go back and say, what was there? Okay, they're over 90, about $10,000. I can come through here, assuming I click on the right one, and I just choose this menu, and I can do three different things. I can send a client level AR notice, which means it's going to go out and find any matter for that client, bind it all into one PDF for any invoice with a balance, with a statement of account, a table of contents. We'll take a look at what that looks like. And I can do that at once. Or if I'm just collecting on this matter, I can come through and say, hey, let's send a matter AR notice. So you'll notice right here, it's already locked in who it's coming from, who it's going to. And then, our attorneys like to be copied on all correspondence to their clients. So we're going to go ahead and do that as well. It's pulled the correct email template for this particular client, matter, or attorney. And then I just click send. Now you'll notice it says that it's attached to this email. We don't actually attach or build the attachment until we hit send. As soon as I click send, that email is now queued. It's either going to pause in that email queue we looked at a second ago, meaning that I can still go review it, make changes, edit, and so forth, or it's just going to automatically go out depending on the workflow that's associated. Now you could also be, working on these matters during December and saying, hey, I'm going to go after my 90-day AR. I know these guys, I can collect this. Somebody in collections can come through and say, hey, the client was waiting. They couldn't wait to make a payment. So I called them and they just said, hey, let's go to the payments page together so we can walk through this. Well, this is the client portal piece that I talked about. And I don't have everything fully exposed here for today's purposes. But what this shows me is this is exactly what the client sees when they click on the link to pay. So I talked about remembering who they are. One of the keys to that is we're not asking them to enter their matter number or their client number. We're not asking them to enter the bill that they want to pay. We are asking them to enter the amount. We're going to make the assumption that they just want to clear their entire client balance, which is a good assumption to have, but it's probably not always the case. So they could come through and say, this is the one that I really have questions on. So I'm going to take that one out, and I'm not sure about this either, because they're viewing it right on their screen. And in fact, you can make any of these live links if they want the ability to view here as well. So now it's doing the math for them, or they might just come out and say, I'm going to make a good faith payment of $25,000. We'll default to the oldest invoices first with balances, and you can come through and allocate that, whatever makes sense. This particular client likes to pay by via credit card. So we've saved that information for them. And what I mean by save, you haven't saved it, we haven't saved it, but the clearinghouse that we use has saved that information so they don't have to re-enter that every month. So if you ever pay bills online, if you had to go out every time and remember what your account number is and put in who you are and re-enter your credit card information, there's a bit of a hesitancy there. Like, yes, I'll get to it, but I don't have time to do that right now. So by remembering who they are, what their payment preferences are, all of their details in addition to their bills and the detail of those bills, you're really making it easy to pay. And it might seem simple, but when you make it easy to pay, it does increase increase how often you get paid and how quickly. At least is what we found. Now you can have free form boxes that they can type additional comments in and things like this. Depending on the practice area, they could just come out and say, hey, you know what, for these matters, I'm just going to enable auto pay because I don't want to come back and do this again. So you do have some flexibility in that. Additionally, we'll get to this, but both trust as well as retainer amounts, they could come out and although for an initial retainer, we might not have the matter yet or whichever, they could come through and select whichever one that we've set up for them, put in their payment amount, and we will remember, there's no invoice to pay yet, but we will remember their preferences on that also. All right, so we'll go back to BillingQ. And all that's great. Being able to do things on demand, being able to assemble those AR notices that quickly to be able to bring that across is very nice, huge time saver. But the goal of the system is to kind of get away from that. We want to provide the ability for when it's appropriate, but really what we're trying to do is use one of these three workflow options down below that says, here's how we send bills for this client or this matter. Here's who it goes to. Here's who it needs to be copied to. I can choose the correct workflow. So firm default, I've just got a couple selected here. They're unlimited. Billing attorney email approval, which means it's going to go to their queue. And then on this matter as well, we're going to use an AR email queue so that anybody on my team or myself included will get noticed when these AR notices or get notified when these AR notices are going to go out. I can choose who else needs to be copied on that as well. And then the final workflow enabled here is a trust workflow. So if you have the need to do trust replenishment or like an evergreen trust, anything of that nature, you can come in and put in what the balance requirement is, what the notice amount needs to be, and then which account that we're using for those payments as well. So if workflow's doing it for us, and this is all automated, you keep talking about visibility. What does that look like? Well, and that's what takes us to the activity section. So within my matters, or within any matters rather, I can come to activity and I can go through and say, hey, I just want to see what notes have been created on this. Okay, just talk to them, promise to pay, probably get rid of this test one, but we'll forgive that for now. But I can come into all and I can see all of the notes, any tasks that I've either created or that have been created for me, all the emails that have been sent. So we automatically track and thread those conversations within here. I could go look at just specifically the bills that have been emailed if I want to go look at those, or the payments that have been made. Maybe those are the areas that are important to me, or write-offs. We'll avoid that for now as well. But we'll just come back to all and say, okay, we sent an AR notice. Oh, that was just today, right? So this is what we said. So if the client calls me, not only is it in my sent items because they call and say, hey, we were just together last night. I didn't know you were going to ding me for a 90-day past due, versus saying, hey, let me call accounting and figure out what this is. I can go to my sent items in Outlook, or I can come into BillingQ and see exactly what was said, what was sent. And then if I want to just walk along the bill with them, I can pull that up. This is a very basic statement of account, just showing balance information. The very next page is table of contents, and say, hey, I just have a question on 1194. Quickly click to that, and I would maybe have questions on this as well. It's not a very detailed bill, so maybe that's why they have some hesitancy to pay. But you can imagine when this is there's 30 bills on here or whatever that the balance might be, being able to quickly navigate to that is important. And you can see exactly what they're looking at, which is nice. So you have full visibility into anything that's sent, any note or task that somebody's created. So I could come through here and say, hey, you know what? We sent that AR notice. They said follow up in 2 weeks, right? And I could put in additional notes. And who am I going to assign that to? So I could choose who I want to assign that to. I could put in a due date if I wanted to and just click save. And now I've got a task in the future that I'll be notified, reminded of, and things of that nature. So I believe I'd mentioned all of these searches are customizable, so you can name them and change them, and literally anything that's in your data that you want to capture via a search that would be important for somebody to see, like, search for attorney. So I just want to come out and see AR for myself. I could go through and be able to see that, but you'll see within the searching parameters, you can build out those searches for however that it makes sense and choose to create that or make that private or public. We're going to jump over here to just a little bit of under the hood, behind the scenes, however you want to phrase that, but just to show you how easy it is to create these things. I can go to my email templates list, assuming I have security to do so. So that is an important disclaimer, right? So not everybody is going to see everything that we're looking at today. We're kind of running wide open, administrator view, if you will. But I can come through and take a look at an AR notice email, and I can use fields from my financial management system that I simply just double click into the template itself. So what that means is those are dynamic fields. So if I have total AR notice, it's going to go look at what the total AR is prior to creating this email template. So they don't have to be static fields, and we don't have to be speaking the exact same way across the board. So this might be AR notice for litigation. There could be AR notice for real estate, AR notice for intellectual property, whatever that might be. And it's as easy as just creating copy. And then you have a brand new template. Now you can come through on any of these, and in fact, you can come through, and if you want to do like a conditional AR template, if you like to get in there and get complicated with it, that's what I would say. But you can come through and say, depending on the age of the AR, let's change the message that we're sending, right? So under 30 days, hey, here's a detailed statement of account. Over 90, hey, to avoid being sent to collections, go ahead and pay this balance, please, immediately. So you get to choose based on the age of AR. What this allows you to do is not have a 30 template, a 60 template, a 90 template, but just apply this kind of across the board. And then we'll look at the age of the AR before we choose the words that we're going to say to them. After you've created the template, then you simply come over to your workflows, and you've got some AR workflows and some, payment due soon workflows and trust replenishment and things of that nature. And then as you highlight or select that, the first thing you're going to do is come through and say which email template are we going to use. But then there's other preferences that you have to have, right? So how old does the bill need to be before we include it on the AR notice? What's the actual trigger date that we're going to send that? What's the minimum amount of AR before we're going to ding them with that or ping them with that, right? And if I've already sent an AR notice, let's wait at least 30 days before we send one. And then every 60 days after that, we'll just automatically send those out. I can choose the client level template or the matter level template. So when we were doing those on-demand ones, you can have different templates for what makes sense for that situation. And if we're doing one PDF per party or per matter, whatever makes sense or is appropriate. So this is where we get a ton of great ideas from our clients. So they roll it out as standard, and they say, you know what, it'd be really great if it did this as well, like this date format, for example, or something of that nature. And so we're very development driven first company, meaning that we'd love to take credit for everything that you see here. But honestly, most of the great ideas after the foundational piece have come from existing clients that say it'd be great if we could accomplish it that way. So workflows unlimited. We can of course get into different things as far as admin settings and the payments page and security roles and stuff like this. And I would encourage you to reach out to us if you'd like to take a deeper dive or see exactly how it would work within your environment. Always happy to jump on and do these.